We're so glad you're here.
We believe in bringing in experts to inspire and to educate women so that they can live empowered, fulfilled, and successful lives.
When women support women, we change the world. Here we go.
You're going to love this program. So who do we have on the docket to speak to today?
Yeah, our guest is such a dynamic woman. She's a communications catalyst with infectious confidence who has coached world leaders, CEOs, philanthropists, social impact innovators, and high-performing professionals for over 20 years. She's the secret sauce or the secret weapon tucked behind the curtain where audiences can't see her, while her clients courageously shine when the stakes are high. She's a wife, a mother, a sought-after speaker, an accomplished entrepreneur, host of her podcast, Lead With Who You Are, an auctioneer, and a champion of and voice for women. Our guest today is Dia Bondi. Hi, Dia.
Hi, everyone. So nice to be here with both of you and all your watchers/listeners.
Great to have
Thank
you
you so much. Let me tell you a little bit more about Dia, Barbara. So Dia is the founder of Dia Bondi Communications, a company that helps others amplify their voice for greater impact while building trust. She is also an activator for SHIO, a community of radically generous people committed to making the world a better place for all. After her experience at auctioneering school, she channeled her learnings and created Ask Like an Auctioneer, a program she produced with a goal to help 1 million women ask for and get it. You know, your enthusiasm is so contagious, and we're excited to explore aspects of our current theme, which is designing and living your brilliant life. So welcome again to the Recharge.
Thanks so much. Just let's keep those expectations a little low, just so we can guarantee
There's a
we're
lot
knocking it out of the park.
Wait, that's completely counter to what you believe, having expectations low. Wait a minute.
No, that's actually not true. That's actually not true. I like to be a sneak attack where I can. And so one of the ways I can hedge my bets on success is to just, play small and show up big.
Well, I'm gonna show you up big a little bit more. You've coached world leaders, CEOs, founders, and innovators, as I mentioned. And more recently, you stepped back for a break to reconnect with yourself and took a working sabbatical, and you enrolled in auctioneering school. I totally see the fit with your personality and an auctioneer. It really does seem like a natural fit for you. Can you share with us a little bit about what motivated that decision? And how you're using what you learned today to help others?
Well, I mean, the instigator in that decision was just a deep curiosity and, sort of the way in which I operate in the world, which is what's the next weird thing I can learn without actually even any expectations that I'll draw on it in my career and the work that I do. But it sort of ends up that way anyhow. I learned to ride motorcycles in my 30s and learned about an idea called counter steering, which is actually a very useful idea when I think about helping my clients be compelling on stage or in front of any audience that matters. It sort of invites the counterintuitive into the conversation that lets you go a different way when the way you're going isn't working for you. I have studied spiritual will writing, which deepened my relationship with what kind of impact do I really want to have in the world. I draw on that in my career. And none of those have been I'm going to go learn this thing in order to apply it to my work with my clients and in the programs that we run at Dia Bondi Communications, but they always creep in because I love doing that pattern matching and seeing where the intersections are. And when I took my working sabbatical, I was looking for something to learn that felt really far afield, that just took me out of what I do every day and the context that I'm often in my professional world when I'm not, momming and friending. And my husband reminded me, hey, 10 years ago, when you volunteered or you were volunteered to be the live auctioneer for the kids, we have two children now, 15 and 12, but at that time, 3 and 5, to be the live auctioneer for our children's preschool fundraiser. I had said a couple of weeks after that that was so much fun. And at a dinner table, I sort of declared it as something on my bucket list to actually learn how to do for real. And during my working sabbatical, my husband was like, hey, remember that thing? Maybe now's the time. And so I jumped on the magic Google machine, and the magic Google machine told me, oh, there's actually a thing called auctioneering school. I thought maybe I'd have to I don't know. I don't know how I was going to learn it. I was like, let me find out. And so within a couple of weeks, I was on an airplane. I went to St. Louis, and me and 100 cowboys on the side of Route 66 in a Holiday Inn Express learned how to auctioneer everything from, $5 box lots to art to real estate to cattle. And at the end of that, I was like, what am I going to do with this? And I know it's not going to be a career, but I came home back to the Bay Area and thought, I'm going to use this as an impact hobby. And I started doing fundraising, auctioneering for women-led nonprofits and nonprofits that benefit women and girls. And turns out that, and this sort of answers the question of like, how do I use that now to accelerate women in sort of work and their careers and in their businesses? And I've figured out after doing a bunch of auctions that, oh my gosh, the way we've been designing the asks tied to the storytelling I help leaders do is exactly opposite of how I've learned to ask as an auctioneer, and in fact leaves money and opportunity on the table. If the women I work with, the women I collaborate with, I've been fairly active in the world of women and work through the CEO network and others, if they actually learned how to ask not like we do every day, but ask like an auctioneer, that would be amazing. And so I wrote it down and built a program to help 1 million women ask for more and get it using what I learned from the world of auctioneering. And that looks like a keynote, it looks like a workshop, and it looks like next fall will be a book.
So, what does that mean to ask like an auctioneer? Tell us more.
So when I'm going to give you the little story of it. Okay. So when I work with folks, they call me because they have a really critical communications moment coming up. And I spent my first 10 years in the learning and development space in teaching classes and what you think of as just like presentation skills or communication skills. And in that time, I'm working with everywhere from folks early career, mid-career, managers, field salespeople, technologists. Like, I'm industry agnostic. But from there all the way up through working with leaders, VC-backed founders and other business people around those critical communications moments, we always have to start with, okay, before we figure out what story to tell, what is it that you want from your audience? And the answer was always a thing: headcount, budget, investment, engagement, collaboration, hours and expertise. Like, pick the thing, right? And when I say great, how much though? The answer I'd often get back is, well, what do you think I can get? And for years, I was co-conspiring with them to design their asks around what they thought they could get. Oh, I really need 10 heads. I need budget for 10 heads for this team, but they'll never go for that. So I'm going to ask for 7, and then I'm going to piece together an engineering team with some discretionary spending I have with contractors, along with borrowing some part-time from another team, blah, blah, blah. Because they'll never go for 11, even though that's what I need. So I'll ask for 7. And I would say, yeah, ask for 7. They go ask for 7 and they'd get a yes and pat themselves on the back. And I felt like a winner. What I realized is that in auctioneering, we can't do that. If we got a yes to our first ask and we sold it to the first paddle in the air, I'd be leaving money and opportunity on the table, because there's a distance between the yes that we get and the no that is potentially out there. And that distance contains all kinds of opportunities for yeses in between that first yes and the no. That is opportunity, is the potential of that individual ask. So what it means to ask like an auctioneer is to actively look for the no. Now, in an auctioneering context, we can start the bidding somewhere and end it when we touch a no. We can't do that in the world. So what we have to do is anticipate, what do we think we're going to get a no to, and actually actively pursue that, and know that if you got a no, it's not bad news, it's great news. It says, I know exactly where the ceiling is. I can back off of it. And I know that and find that perfect equilibrium between the biggest possible ask and the yes that they'll give you. And inevitably, that ends up being above what you would have asked for if you were just aiming for a yes.
So one of the things you mentioned on one of our conversations is this concept of ZOFO.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So the Zofo is a magical place. It is a magical, magical place. Sometimes when I say, welcome to the Zofo, but I don't want to freak out. No, it's the positive kind of freaking out. So when you think about the asks we might make, I'm just going to take a very basic
Mhm.
situation where we deal with a number. Like, let's imagine you're applying for a new role and you're now in salary negotiation. So you might say, okay, I'm just going to pick a number. I'm making $75,000 now at this new role. I think I can get 85. And so what do? We ask for 85 because we're pretty sure we can get that, right? Everything above 85, you're not going to ask for. Why? Because somehow everything above 85 lives in the zone of freaking out. The zone of freaking out is everything above what you think you can get. It's that place, it's the feeling you get when, how dare I? What am I, crazy? This is ridiculous. They'll never go for it. Well, let's hope not, because if you get a no and then negotiate down, you've maximized the potential of
Right.
that ask.
Right.
But
Right.
everything that threatens a no, everything above, whatever your level of wherever you stop, I need to be 85% sure I'm going to get a yes in order to ask for it. I need to be 75. I need to be 95. I need to be 100% sure I'm going to get it. Anything above that lives in the zone of freaking out. And the zone of freaking out tells us, don't do this. How dare you? Who are you? Who do you think you are? You're in danger land. And actually, we can reread that feeling of freaking out more like something that we're doing, not like we're doing something where we're going to get in trouble, but instead reread that kind of, crispy, sparkly, wild, super alive, thrilling, scary feeling as a sign, not that you're breaking rules. Maybe you are. And if you are, congratulations. But instead, more that it's an opportunity to the Zofo, when you feel it, we can reread it to think of it more as a sign. That feeling is a sign
Yeah.
you're doing something courageous for yourself, that you're standing up for your dream, that you're exploring what's possible for yourself. So the
Ugh,
zone of
I love
freaking
that.
out is a beautiful place. Me and my team, we talk about living in it. We want to live in it. And not every, I'll stop here, I promise. I know I'm monologuing, but to say, not every ask you'll make in your career, in your life, in your business, in the nonprofit that you run, in the initiative you're charging forward in your organization, and the next role you have, not every ask you'll ever make needs to be a Zofo ask. What
Mm.
we're doing is looking for the ones that are strategic to your goals, that we want to make sure you're not artificially lowering.
Well, what you said that really impacted me was you need to be in that zone more. Otherwise, you're caught up in just being accepted in the world of acceptance.
Versus
And
possibility.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that was kind of an aha moment for myself, actually.
Well,
Uh, yeah.
I mean, look, I want to. It's funny. It's a little bit backwards because sometimes we want to get what are we being loyal to when we shape our asks? Are we being loyal to the
Mm.
need to get a yes so we feel good and safe? Or are we being loyal to the dream? You know? So which one is winning? And folks ask me, well, how do I actually find the courage to ask for the thing that is just above what I think I can get, to really stretch into challenging my assumptions about what's possible? And my answer is we've got to actually, in order to value the challenge more than the safety, we have to fall in love with our dreams more than we are
Yeah.
afraid of the rejection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nancy, did you write that down?
I know. I'm gonna. So I'm gonna Audra pause it here because I want a recording of this before it goes live. No, but that is a takeaway. That is, I think, from my perspective, a visual on the screen. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
that's so true, Dia. It's like
yeah,
it's so true. It's like something I feel, you know.
Y-
So
yeah.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
tangible, right?
I know. I mean, I think for me, it's always, and the thing about the Zofo for me is that it can be a joyous exploration place. It doesn't have to be a punishing place. People talk about get out of your comfort zone, get out of your comfort zone. And all I can think of is, well, if you're not in your comfort zone, where are you? And my answer is the zone of freaking out, that place where you don't know the answer. around what you're going to get. And I think that place can be a place where you, again, it's just like has joy in it and exploration. It doesn't have to be a place that's punishing. And in fact, if you think of it as a zone where you also get to make a lot of experiments, the no's that you get aren't a comment on who you are. They're just like, huh, cul-de-sac right there,
Right.
hit a cul-de-sac right there, hit a cul-de-sac right there. That's all right. Find the alleyway, get between the
Yeah.
houses.
Mhm.
Yeah. Gosh, it's so true. So, you have this energy. You're such a natural entrepreneur, right? You
It's
have these
such a problem.
ideas,
Yes.
right? You have these ideas and you're like, "Oh, I this would be great. I could just go down this direction." But you create this, you've had a great business. What inspires you to take these concepts and bring them forward to be more of who you can be for others?
I don't know. I feel like I have an inherent drive, and I think I also have a very like I understand that I have a strong adventure value, and I have a strong connected experience value. And so when I think about what when something hits me, when two ideas that don't seem related crash together for me and I see possibility in them,
Mhm.
like the idea of what if
Mhm.
all the women I work with stopped asking what if I stopped helping them ask like we do in business? Instead, if they learn to ask like an auctioneer without actually standing up an auctioneering school for girls, how what might that look like? I for me, I just it's an adventure, and I let my adventure value be really alive in my life and entrepreneurship. Period. And I also recognize that it's got to be a connected experience. It's got to be connected you know, um, it's got to be connected in the sense that I need to be working intimately with people. Even if I'm giving a keynote and there's 1,000 people in a room, it feels like a connected experience. And it's got to be connected to what matters to me.
Mhm.
It can't just be, it's not enough that it maybe inherently has a good idea or solves a business problem. It's actually got to be connected to what matters to me. So those two things, the notion, embracing my adventure value and embracing and prioritizing connected experiences have that has told me what I want to pursue. Does that answer
And
your question?
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
great.
definitely. And I'm curious just to continue on that. When you talk about it has to have meaning to me, I mean, like, do you ever get to a place where you try to convince yourself it has meaning, but it doesn't, and then you can feel it? Or are you like rock solid in
Ah,
these, in what is of meaning to you and where you want to be intentional in spending your time?
I mean, I'm going to go back to this idea of adventure and exploration. I didn't know Ask Like an Auctioneer was. I knew it was a thing, or I didn't know. I had a hunch it was a thing, and I was not. I didn't shy away from experimenting and sort of co-creating it with the audiences I wanted it to have an impact with. So the first time I ever tested the ideas was not at a dinner table. It was in front of 65 women at a Silicon Valley meetup where I had a 20-minute slot where I was able to sort of use it as a petri dish for the ideas. And I
Mhm.
literally outsourced it. I told the women in the room, I'm going to spend 20 minutes talking about this wild idea, Ask Like an Auctioneer, which is really like the what it means to ask like an auctioneer, which is to actually actively seek the no, number one, and to hit the no, and then 9 ideas from the world of auctioneering that will help, that are courage making, that will help you step into your Zofo. Because if you're gonna challenge yourself and go for a no, it's gonna be Zofo-ish, period.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I,
Yeah,
I told them
totally.
all, hey, I got this wild idea. I'm gonna spend 20 minutes talking to you. You tell me if it's garbage. You tell me what the possibility is for you in this. And so there's like a willingness to kind of be curious, and then I can start making those connections. If it works for you, if it's if it's like the mission behind it is to and I had to ask myself, why is this so alive for me? Why I didn't know. I had to kind of like investigate. Why is this so alive for me? Because like I want to help a million women ask for more and get it. I don't care if you're asking for another $5 raise as a restaurant manager on the side of, a highway in the middle of America somewhere, or if you're really, or if you're getting a 25% raise and a much bigger, set of shares going in at a director level in marketing at a big tech company. I don't care. Like more. So I was like, why do I want this? Why do I want this?
Mhm.
And in that moment, I was like, oh, I know. It's because I want to put more money, but also more decision making power in the hands of women so we can change everything for all of us. Because when a woman is in charge, We got maternity leave.
Yeah, childcare,
Yeah, exactly.
all sorts of good things happen.
And
Yeah.
Uh,
and it's interesting. I think about what you had just mentioned by engaging those 65 women at that meetup in Silicon Valley. You were saying, let me know if this works for you. So giving them part ownership as well, and hoping or helping them be curious as well. I'm interested in understanding how you have the courage to be more and to live more brilliantly, and how you help other women, not just through Ask Like an Auctioneer, but in your life. Aside from that, how do you help other women step into more of their courage?
I mean, really tactical things. Like I have a very strong bias toward action. So so my purpose platform statement, which is something I do with other clients, men and women, um, i- is to for me, I am an earthquake here to shift perspective so folks can see themselves more powerfully. And I don't have like the 6 steps to seeing yourself
Right.
more powerfully. I have a bunch of tools that I've developed over time by noticing where other people get their source of energy and being in converse and courage and being in conversation with them and seeing what lights them up and just naming it and claiming it. Guess what you just did for yourself? I just saw you light up. That seems really powerful for you. What just happened?
Mhm.
What would you call that thing? And pretty soon developing frameworks for that. And again, drawing on interdisciplinary approaches. So the world of auctioneering, who would have thought? But there's utility and courage making frameworks and ideas
Right.
around us
Right.
everywhere. We just have to kind of widen our lens to see what might be useful. And that's my bias toward action. Is that useful to you? Is that useful to you? That's a question I always ask. What might be useful here? So it's not so much that I have some methodologies. The platform map in my communications work is one way. Ask Like an Auctioneer and the 9 ideas that are courage making to help women step into their Zopho and ask for more and get it. Those are other ways. But there's always something that's not on the map. And so, what I always want to go back to is who are you? What actually matters to you? What is most alive? And how do you name it and claim it?
yeah, I love that. I think your curiosity and your high degree of engagement and listening is so powerful, right?
Interesting, because
And
I got kicked out of ballet class a lot because I was talking too much. I get the feedback now. Now in my 40s, I get the feedback that I'm a great listener, and I'm like, really? Because I used to get in trouble a lot for doing all the talking. So thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. And I do listen with my whole body. I think the other piece of it is that I want more folks to, in their leadership roles, just in their life and in their pursuits, you know, I, I'm just actually thinking of this right now since you asked the question. I think I let myself flip. I let myself experiment and then see what's important instead of deciding what's important and then pursuing it.
Yeah, yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah. That being open like that is key, right? Um,
I say to my daughter all the time, I don't know, let's find out.
Oh,
right.
I
So,
love that.
Dia, if you ran the world and had supreme power, what change would you make?
Um, well, I would institute sensible gun laws or remove them from the planet altogether. Um, I don't know. I kind of hate this question because it feels so far away from what's possible when we're
Mm,
in such an
Yeah.
incredible tangle right now in the world around how to live and what to value in one another to allow each other to be different and distant from one another, to not know, and to also coexist. So
hmm
I think that the things that I would want to change, I can't imagine snapping my fingers. I wish I had a like really beautiful answer for you. I don't. It feels so distant. What I can say, and I think we talked about this before, is that if I ran my world right now, which I do, I run my own world, my tiny little world. I run it, and what I can do is to help the people I get to touch see themselves and design for who they are instead of assuming that the way they can have what they want is to carve themselves down and carve the parts of themselves out that are unwanted. That's one.
Mm.
For us to bring ourselves forward as an asset and to work with who we are and to lead from that. And then secondly, when it comes in my world, I know I took your question of like if you ran the whole world, and I'm bringing it down to like my world, which is my whole world,
Mhm.
to say also to distribute power in a way that we can have power with instead of having the fight over power over.
Over. Yeah.
And in that, for me, I think I said this to you before, I look at how much traction we've lost as women over the pandemic, um, how many women struggle for even the minimum. The way I can impact the system, what I want is to know that I have helped and had a hand in helping seat the folks who are not in power into power one voice at a time.
Yeah, well, that's a real answer. I
Yeah.
appreciate that a lot because, that's really more role modeling the power you use in your world and wishing more people behave that way, right?
Tiny
So
little things. Can I share a little example?
we'd love
Yeah,
that.
please.
So early in Project Ask Like an Auctioneer, in that room where I've sampled the ideas with 65 women, and I told them, tell me if this is crap, or tell me if this is, if this is worth pursuing. And they all kind of went, keep going, please. There's a woman there. I tell the story in Project Ask Like an Auctioneer, and she'll show up in the book. I call her Lorena the Brave. She slipped out the back, and never met her. And a couple of days later, she tweeted at me, I just asked like an auctioneer and I feel like I'm going to puke, which is a sign she was in her Zofo.
Hmm.
And what she meant was, I'm standing up for myself. I'm drawing a line. I'm pursuing the thing I want. I'm willing to risk getting a no
Scared to
to
death.
ask for what actually matters. Not to death. She was scared to life, is what she was.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Zofo is an
Yeah,
alive place.
right.
That is a place where we're like, "Ooh, look at what I am daring myself to do. Look at how it is always whenever somebody names something they want that feels Zofo-ish, they smile, their eyes open up. It is not scared to death. It is scared to life. She said, over the time we've known one another, she's used the ideas from Ask Like an Auctioneer to sort of 3x her life. And she's grown her income by like triple. She runs
Wow.
operations for an AI gaming AI entertainment company now. And she called me, and we've known each other for a couple of years now. She called me not long ago and said, "You'd never believe it, Dia. My daughter sells art on the internet." Her daughter's like 15. My daughter sells art on the internet, and she just wish I could tell you exactly how it goes, but she said my daughter sells art on the internet. Somebody asked her to custom. She was commissioned to do a thing, and they wanted it for free, and in exchange for something that wasn't important to this daughter of hers. And her daughter said no, and she negotiated a deal for herself that meant she sold the most. Um, she sold a piece of art for the highest price she had since she started selling art on the internet. And Lorena told me she did it. This daughter told Lorena, "I did it because I saw you do it."
Oh my
Ah,
God. Amen.
So
That's
when
awesome.
we talk about one seat at a time, if I can help the Lorenas of the world get themselves in a position that is a see it be it for other women around, that has a cascading effect. I'll never know.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Leading by example and being a part of something bigger than yourself.
Intergenerationally too.
Yeah.
Totally.
Love that. Right.
That's awesome. So, um, you ooze this energy and this enthusiasm. Um, do you ever decompress? How do you practice self-care?
So I have two speeds: pedal to the metal and
No.
sitting in a chair. Those are my two. I do. I have a hard time with strolling. And so I'm not, like I said earlier, I'm not interested in making who I am a problem, and I'm not interested in making other people feel like who they are is a problem. So I recognize that I am pedal to the metal and I'm sitting in a chair. And the way in which I find recovery and rest and connection, I can have a connected experience with myself, is literally sitting in a chair. My husband and I call it staring at it, where I'll sit in my courtyard and like look at a tree for a long time. My kids even know I'm sitting in the mom's sitting in the courtyard. Um, and
And just being, not doing, just being.
100%. I'm really good actually at just sitting in a chair. I also like stripped down experiences. So I don't care about heavy pampering, really. I don't need to sit in a bubble bath with candles all around. I don't need
Right,
to get a
right.
mani-pedi. I need to sit in a chair and look at a tree. I need to go backpacking with my 5 best girlfriends. I need to sit still and be in beautiful places with the minimal amount of kerfuffle.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, those things, they don't cost no money. No, they
Right,
don't.
right.
Yeah.
And
So true.
and just kind of segueing from that, it doesn't cost money. You know, we're curious about how you have, taken the abundance and created this successful business, and how that has helped you create your own financial well-being and financial wellness.
It's funny that you say I have a successful business. I'm like, do I though? Because I always have a picture, like the Zofo, it's always moving away from me, meaning, I have a picture in my mind of what's possible and it feels so far away from where we are. But like the horizon, the more I move toward it, it moves away from me. So I'm always in a gap state. It doesn't mean that I have a big scarcity mindset, but I am always feeling the gap, you know? And I just want to name that because it's easy to be like, oh, it's a woman with a successful business. I'm like, yes, and I'm always feeling the gap.
Hmm.
Um, when I think about, wealth building, which is newer language for me, it was always about money, and now I'm really in understanding for myself what does it mean to build wealth. Um, a couple of things. I have my husband and I both, I think I shared with you, we were high school sweethearts, and I mean, it's so weird to say it, sweethearts. We were high school friends, and he was just the person I needed to. He's my person. I have lots of people, but he's like the person. And we started our money lives, our wealth lives together. And one of the things that has been really, really critical is that we have been very aligned as partners in our financial household. We have talked about money in the way that we're supposed to be talking about sex and, parenting, and we are very premeditated. Okay? That's one thing. So I'll tell you, the most important book I read was The Millionaire Next Door. I don't know if your audiences have read
Hmm.
that. It's been around for a very long time, but I loved the secret telling about, what it really means to build wealth. The second thing that has been really important to us is that we were and to me was that I was really clear that I don't care about stuff. Like I said, I don't care about leasing a new Mercedes every 3 years. If that's your jam, get it, girl. But for me, that has not been. I prioritized. I don't want a lot of financial obligations in that way. So I've always been very clear and sort of even made it my brand with my friends and like I talk about it freely that like I don't care about stuff. I'm a secondhand queen. When my kids, their rollerblades are getting wobbly, we replace the bearings and they learn how to do it. We don't go buy them new rollerblades. It's a $6 fix, not a $106 fix.
Right.
So I just have a value around, repair and curation instead of replacement and newness. I also don't care about brand very much. So that's gotten me off the hook of a lot of easy to feel obligated, financial commitments. The third thing that we've done is put everything on auto magic. Everything is automatically distributed to the accounts where they need to go from the beginning. When I was working at a bike shop, my husband was $10 an hour at a construction site when we were in our 20s. yes to the 401k matching right off the bat, and the money goes where it needs to go before it ever hits our accounts. So we were very clear that we want to do it once, not every month.
Right.
What I love that you said, because auto magic works for expenditures like Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus, and that you do an inventory and audit every now and then to kind of check in on those types of auto magic
We do,
possibilities.
yeah, because it can be a risk, right? Like all of
Yeah.
a sudden, everything's automatically coming out of your account and going to the wrong accounts, not
Yes.
to your other accounts or going to Disney's accounts.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
it's totally true. We do usually after the holidays when we're kind of coming out of winter into the spring, we'll do a little bit of like, can we just look at all of our automatic transfers and all of our, we do things like go out and get other insurance quotes. We shop around to see if we can get a rate adjustment on our mortgage. We like do these little, and it's a couple of bucks here and a couple of bucks there. But I think what it does more is it keeps us in control and
And-
feeling like our money isn't the boss of us. We're the boss of the money.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The last piece, and I learned this a little bit later, we talked about this a little bit, is to think more creatively and boldly about what I let myself have a right to ask for. So with some of my clients, we'll do, if I work particularly VC-backed founders, there's an opportunity for me to both get a combination of shares and cash if my business can afford that. And I never, ever do a deal like that is more risk than I can handle. I'm not going to ask for that for anything that I wouldn't be happy to like have it not work out. So I don't put too much on the line, but to think a little bit more about wealth, longer term than dollars right now.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, that impressed me that it's almost in the Zofo. It's like, well, I can ask for that. Why not? They can say no, but if I don't ask, I'll never get it.
Oh,
Right.
the first
So,
time I asked for it, I felt like my skin was on fire. I completely scared myself to life with that. Full on.
yeah,
Wow.
I have a question. So, did you did you have an aha moment in auctioneering school? Did it kind of pull all this perspective together? Was that your biggest takeaway, or were you living in this place already? And it
What place? Living in what place?
of Zofo, of realizing that I need to ask like an auctioneer. Maybe you were
No,
doing it already, or you just realized,
no,
oh
it
my,
it went like this. Wow, so it's so crazy. Like I feel like there's so many women that I work with that if they just had a chance to stand on stage and ask, like I do as an auctioneer, where it's sort of like direct and very clear, and you're in a gorgeous gown and you have a mic on your head, and it's a very powerful place to be. And actually, what that means is, oh my gosh, wait, like it literally waterfalled out of my brain. Wait, what that means would be like they'd actually have to look for a no. And that's not at all what I've been doing with them for the last 10 years. I've been asking for what they think they can get. And that is like actually a flip flop right there. And like, why
Mhm.
don't we actually ask for more than we think we can get? And I was like, oh, because all that stuff lives in, where does that,
That
what is that? It's in that place
the
outside. I think it's like,
zone.
it's not in our comfort zone. It's in the zone of freaking out. Like, and all of a sudden it had a name. And so again, it goes to like, I'm following my curiosity and then I'm naming it.
Yeah.
Mm. What else is on the docket for Dia Bondi? What's next?
Well, we're relaunching our podcast from the Dia Bondi Show, which was really around just amplifying, accelerating women, helping. We called it a big podcast for women with goals, and we're relaunching it as "Lead with Who You Are," which will contain that conversation along with the conversation around what does it mean to speak powerfully in the world as a leader, to align and activate people, teams, and cultures towards shared goals, whether you're advocating for something for yourself or you are leading an organization. So that is getting relaunched in the next month or two. We are working through programs to help accelerate VC-backed founders at the time when they're struggling the most because they can't actually build the product themselves anymore. They have to lead with a very powerful tool, which is their voice. So we're working with different VC platform groups to bring that to their portfolios, and we are asking the question: what else for us? Where else can we have impact? We know we want to help, the world's most ambitious folks across the board speak powerfully and lead and in a way that is aligned to who they are. How else can we do that? That is an active question. It will never go away.
Oh, I love
And
that.
is that, do you have a good a team in place that explores that together?
Completely awesome. We have an
Yeah.
executive producer who is just fantastic at thinking about content continuity. My friend Dino Anderson talks about uh, um, continuity of experience, and I'm
Mhm.
so deep in the one-on-ones and I'm so drawn to the connected experiences, and my curiosity, what she's great at is stitching it together so that it makes a real quilt of experiences that pay off on our promise to the world. And yes, we have marketing help and we have operations lead. Like, this is new for me as well. The last couple of years, I actually brought a team on to help me bring something that I think matters into the world in a way that I'm not having to be the one doing the Herculean effort. And that is
Mm.
a different way of being in the world. That is a different way of being in the world. And it is aimed at this notion of, building the wealth of the business. And I think of wealth around the financial wealth of the business, but also the IP wealth,
Mhm.
because I can't
Mhm.
see everything myself.
Yeah.
So, yes, we do have a team, and I'm very, very grateful for their attention and heart. And they love our clients as much as I do.
Well, that's interesting
Excellent.
because I think about, it's the who, not the how. Like, you have built this team around you that you can't do everything. So it's who is it that you need to have around you. And I know we're going to put this in the show notes. Curious, what's the best way for people to learn more about you?
Thank you so much, Nancy, for asking. They can go to diabondi.com and find out about all the work we do and find our new podcast available there. You can also go and connect with me on LinkedIn. Please do. And you'll learn about Ask Like an Auctioneer at diabondi.com as well. And for those of you who are listening, running events, women's ERGs at your organizations, and you're looking for content and workshops and experiences to help accelerate the women in your life, it may be a great fit for you. So I'll make a direct ask there and say, if you're curious, please reach out to us, and we'd be happy to talk about the content of Ask Like an Auctioneer if it's the right fit for the communities that you're bringing experiences and learning to.
Yeah, that's great.
Fantastic.
So, Barbara, I don't know about you, but cannot think of a better way to end a Friday and before a 3-day weekend. I feel like I've had a margarita. I'm already at 5 o'clock. So,
We have to end the call?
yeah, I know, seriously. But
Thank you,
Partay.
Dia,
Dia.
we would love to invite you back.
Yeah.
I think there's just so much alignment here, and so many gifts that you are sharing with the world. So we are so grateful that you carved out time on a Friday afternoon again to join us here at the Recharge. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Dia.